The illusion of duality and the path to non-dual awareness. The nature of duality, or dva'ete, refers to the perception of separateness that dominates our day-to-day experience, the sense that we are individual beings, distinct from the world, other people, and the divine. This perception forms the foundation of most human thought and interaction. From a Vedantic perspective, duality is not ultimately real but a superimposition on the non-dual reality of Brahman due to ignorance avidya. The world appears to be made of countless distinct objects and beings, all operating within the framework of time, space, and causation. This illusion arises because the mind, by its very structure, functions in terms of subject and object. When we say I see a tree, we are unconsciously affirming a split between the observer and the observed. Vedanta posits that this division is not real but merely apparent, like mistaking a rope for a snake in dim light. The reality, says Advaita Vedanta, is that there is only one undivided existence Brahman, which appears as the many due to Maya, the power of illusion. Just as waves arise on the ocean without ever becoming separate from the ocean itself, the myriad forms and experiences of the world arise within Brahman without altering its essential oneness. The illusion of duality is sustained by two key concepts in Vedanta: Maya, cosmic illusion, and avidya, individual ignorance. Maya is the inscrutable power of Brahman that causes the non-dual to appear as dual. It is not a substance but a principle that veils the true nature of reality and projects multiplicity where there is only unity. At the individual level, this projection is sustained by avidya, which clouds the intellect and gives rise to false identification with the body, mind, and ego, when the self-Atman, which is none other than Brahman, identifies with the limited body-mind and complex. It forgets its infinite nature and begins to act as a separate entity. This false identification leads to desires, aversions, actions, and reactions, all of which strengthen the sense of separateness and keep the individual trapped in samsara, the cycle of birth and death. The scriptures use various analogies to explain this mechanism. The sky reflected in water appears to be fragmented, yet the sky itself is untouched. A mirror may reflect many forms, but it remains unchanged. In the same way, Brahman remains one and undivided, while the multiplicity is a projection without independent reality. The illusion of duality is not merely a philosophical problem, it has profound psychological, emotional, and spiritual consequences. When we see ourselves as separate, we are driven by fear, desire, competition, and a constant need for validation. We fear death because we identify with the body. We experience anxiety because we think happiness lies in external circumstances. We struggle with loneliness because we feel isolated from others. These sufferings are the direct result of the ignorance that veils our true nature. Vedanta teaches that liberation moksha is not the acquisition of something new, but the removal of ignorance, revealing the self as it always has been, complete, infinite, and free. This is a radical reorientation of perception and identity. The journey from duality to non-dual awareness is a process of unlearning the false and realizing the ever-present truth. This shift has transformative power. It dissolves fear, erases the compulsive drive for approval, and instills a deep sense of peace and wholeness. It is not merely intellectual but existential, changing how one lives, thinks, feels, and relates to the world. The path to non-dual awareness is laid out systematically in the Vedanic tradition through Shravanam, listening to scriptural teachings, Mananam, reflecting upon them, and needed high as in deep meditation or contemplation. The scriptures, such as the Upanishads, Bhagavad Gita, and Brahma Sutras, provide the roadmap, while the guidance of a realized guru ensures proper understanding. Listening to the teachings is the first step, exposing oneself to the idea that I am not this body-mind, but the infinite self. Reflection deepens this knowledge by resolving doubts and reinforcing clarity. Finally, through sustained contemplation, the seeker dissolves mental conditioning and abides in the self. Vedanta does not ask us to believe in something external, but to inquire deeply into the nature of the self. Who am I? What is this world? What remains when all thoughts subside? This process peels away the layers of conditioning, much like removing veils covering a light. As the mind becomes pure and steady, the non-dual truth begins to shine forth. The realization that I am Aham Brahmasmi is not a mere concept, but a living experience that transforms all aspects of life. When the illusion of the duality is overcome, what remains is pure awareness, limitless, timeless, and unconditioned. This is not an altered state or mystical experience that comes and goes, but the ever-present background of all experiences. It is what remains when the mind is silent, when identification with form ceases, and when the sense of I dissolves into universal being. The realized sage sees the same self in all beings, unaffected by pleasure or pain, success or failure. This is the vision of the Jnani Dhanura Brahman. From this perspective, the world is not denied but reinterpreted. It is seen as a play of consciousness, not a source of bondage. The Jnani lives in the world but is not of it, acting without attachment, loving without possessiveness, and speaking without ego. Liberation is not escapism but total immersion in reality, now seen clearly without the distortions of duality. The inner silence of non-dual awareness brings ananda bliss that is not dependent on circumstances. The realized being rests in this awareness at all times, even amidst worldly duties, like a lotus leaf untouched by water. To live in non-dual awareness is to live in freedom. One no longer strives to become something or achieve something, for the self is already full and complete. All actions arise from spontaneity and compassion, not from a sense of lack or ego-driven desire. The sense of separation from others dissolves, giving rise to universal love, empathy, and understanding. Life becomes a flow of conscious presence, where every moment is seen as sacred. The Vedantic sage is established in street-hit a pranist eddy wisdom and remains unmoved by the dualities of gain and loss, praise and blame. But this state is not reserved for the few. It is the birthright of all beings, accessible through sincere inquiry and practice. As the Bhagavad Gita says, among thousands, one seeks the truth among those. Perhaps one realizes it, yet the journey is not in vain, for every step taken toward the self reduces suffering and brings greater clarity and peace. In the end, the illusion of duality is seen for what it is, a mirage, and the seeker wakes up to the eternal presence that was never absent. This is the essence of Vedanta, and not belief, but direct seeing, not striving, but abiding, not becoming, but being.